Let's face it, the only time that it's acceptable to wait in line is when you're at Chick-fil-A. What's up, guys? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sam Marvin, and I have been in the photography industry for 25 plus years. While I love being a creative, business is my passion, and elevating the industry of photography is my focus. I created the 7-Figure Photographer to share my journey to 7 figures and to help others find their way too. Today, I'm going to share 3 tips with you on how you can pave your own way instead of being a follower and standing in line. A couple years ago, I was skiing up here at Bogus Basin. It's just our local resort. I was with my son. We'd signed him up for the ski club, something I did when I was young, and so he had to race. But my son and I went up skiing one day, and we started skiing. Of course, we found a spot where there was no lines. The lift line, we could ski right down, get on the lift, and be done. We took a couple of laps on the ski runs, and by the time we came to the bottom of the run, here is this giant line. I'm a production person, and efficiency is my key. I hate wasting time. I hate lines. My son, of course, was like, "Oh, Dad, we got to get in line. The line's really long. It's going to take forever." But there was 4 different spots that you could ski into. 2 of the spots were kind of long, but there was this one really big line. But I noticed the 4th lane had nobody in it. So I told my son, I said, "Follow me." We skied right down to the chairlift, got in line. People started to follow in behind us. We got on the chairlift and took off. It was actually the same weekend we were at the ski race. We actually went to a hockey event, and we were watching hockey with our family. But at the end of the night, when everything was done and the game was over, everybody flooded to the parking garages. The line was wrapped around the building. The parking garage, kind of like the one I'm standing on right now, was just packed. And I noticed that there was no cars coming out of the parking garage because everybody was standing at the meter, putting their ticket in and paying for their parking. What I knew is that you could actually put your credit card into the machine at the bottom of the parking and get the same experience or same result. And so I went over to the guy and I said, "Hey, is it all right if we just use our card and come down and pay this way?" And he said, "Yeah, I don't know why nobody else is doing it." Nobody cared. They just were following the herd. They were getting in line. I learned so much from this experience, and really just kind of applies to how I work in my life. And it's actually kind of funny because Mia and Yin both laugh at me because they're like, "Oh, Sam never follows the rules. He's always going in the out and out the in." And it's just my style. I can't stand waiting. I don't want to wait in line. I don't have the time. So tip number 1 is to identify the herd and avoid it. Now, obviously, I'm not actually talking about a herd of cows, but cows actually herd together to avoid unsafe situations or predators, but they also feed and graze in the same direction so as to avoid conflict amongst the herd. And I think that lines are kind of that same concept. And in business, we tend to go with the herd. We move with the lines. We find a line and then we stick to that line, or we get in line because that's the safe way. But the idea here is that if you can find where the masses are, or find the line and find the herd, then you know, where to start to determine how you can avoid this mentality. Calculated risk is a very important part of business, but playing it safe is actually probably not the best way to go in business. You really need to take risks, and you really need to kind of pave your own road or avoid the herd. Okay, so tip number 2 today is emulate success, but do not copy. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel. There are plenty of successful businesses, photography studios out there that you can learn from and emulate. But when you go as far as a lot of photographers do, where they go online, they look at prices, they price shop, they look at websites, they literally copy everything down to the T, or a system for how they do things. When you copy, you're more or less a fraud. The idea here is that you need to look at how other people are successful and figure out a better way to do what they do. We went down to Park City not too long ago, my team and I, and one of the things we did was we went to look through the galleries. Now, for those of you who don't know, one of my favorite photographers, as far as landscape photographers, is Peter Lick. Now, if you've ever been to Las Vegas, he's got galleries all over in Las Vegas. And I love when you walk into one of his galleries, it's just so cool to see how he has everything set up, the way he lights everything. Everything is done so perfectly. And if you didn't emulate the success that he has in business, honestly, you're crazy. However, when we took our trip down to Park City, I was excited to go check out all the galleries, and I was really hoping that we might find a Peter Lick gallery. But as we were walking through, we actually walked into a gallery that I had to kind of second guess, because the only thing different about that gallery was the name on the sign. Everything about this gallery was exactly the same. The sales table was in the same place. The wandering salesmen, how they hung their prints, how they completed or finished their prints, how they did their sales, their lighting, everything was exactly the same. I even brought it up to the salesperson. I said, wow, you guys are just like a Peter Lick gallery. And of course, that caused a little bit of angst in that person. But make something for yourself, but don't be afraid to emulate other people's success. And that doesn't mean you copy. It means that you recognize where they've had their successes, you figure out better ways to create those, or a different niche on how to do that, a different direction to go, and then you make it better. But do not copy. So tip number 3 is learn how to or when to recalculate. Once you've found the herd and you've assessed where things are going and your opportunities for change, then we recalculate. This is great for like in your business when you recognize a point or a position in your business that is hitting a bottleneck and you have to figure out a way to fix the bottleneck or recalculate. Effectively recognize the points that are slowing you down or stopping you. Then all it is just figuring out how to determine a way around or a better way, or just altogether becoming a more efficient or more focused direction, whether it be eliminating, one street or whatnot and moving on to a whole different direction. One thing to be wary of, though, is recalculating too quickly. Oftentimes this can actually get you in trouble. I've done this a lot of times where I've like, oh, I know a better route. I get this all the time when my wife and I race home from work or whatnot. It's always like she wants to beat me no matter how it happens. This happens with a lot of things, and she thinks she knows a better way than I do, and sometimes I'll take a different way just to try to beat her. It just hurts me in the end. So my point in your business is that sometimes you have to recognize when you can recalculate or readjust, but you also have to know when it is good versus bad. So I'm sure you're wondering, what does this really have to do with my business? Behind me sits Big Mike, one of Idaho's historic steam engines. And 150 years ago, people believed that if a steam engine went over 35 miles an hour, people would actually suffocate. But even crazier, they believed that if a steam engine went over 50 miles an hour, a woman's body couldn't handle it and it would suck her uterus out. Now, I know that's really bizarre, but I want you to think about the concept. Somebody decided to push those limits. But who was the person that decided to bend that rule or to push that boundary? What woman was the first one to get on a train and say, take it up over 50. I'm okay if I lose my uterus. But when you think about it, without the people in history that bend the rules or find a different way or skip the line, those are important things. There was a study done that says 37 billion hours a year are wasted of American people sitting in line or standing in line. 37 billion hours. I did the math myself. That's 328.2 million people in the United States at 37 billion hours. That's 113 hours average per year of people standing in line. So imagine how much more efficient you could be, how much more you could make in your life by figuring out a way to skip the line, figuring out how to pinpoint where the herd is and to recalculate. concepts I've been talking about in these 3 tips are really just a way to help you understand that if you can pave your own way, you can be a leader in your industry by choosing to do hard things. And that's honestly the t-shirt that I'm wearing today. This is a great t-shirt, and the reason I created this t-shirt was purely because I want it to be a reminder for people to every day do hard things, do new things that you're scared to do, because the more times you do hard things, the easier they get. So I understand the concept of paving your own way, or the concept of finding a different route might be scary and challenging, but when you do hard things, you start to succeed at harder things. Down in the description below, we'll make sure to leave a link to where you can get one of these t-shirts on the website. That's all I got for you guys today. Thanks for hanging out with us. Make sure to scroll down and smash the like button or comment. We will see you again soon.